35. Vishyavadi va. Pravridaratpana manasas thidnabandini. Those forms of concentration that bring extraordinary sense perceptions cause perseverance of the mind. This naturally comes with dharana, concentration. The yogis say, if the mind becomes concentrated on the tip of the nose, one begins to smell, after a few days, wonderful perfumes. If it becomes concentrated at the root of the tongue, one begins to hear sounds. If on the tip of the tongue, one begins to taste wonderful flavors. If on the middle of the tongue, one feels as if you were coming in contact with something. If one concentrates his mind on the palate, he begins to see peculiar things. If a man whose mind is disturbed wants to take up some of these practices of yoga, yet doubts the truth of them, he will have his doubts set at rest, when, after a little practice, these things come to him, and he will persevere. 36. Vishoka va Jyothishmathi. Or, by the meditation on the effulgent one which is beyond all sorrow. This is another sort of concentration. Think of the lotus of the heart, with petals downwards, and running through it the sukumna. Take in the breath, and while throwing the breath out, imagine that the lotus is turned with the petals upwards, and inside that lotus is an effulgent light. Meditate on that. 37. Vitaragavashayan va chittam. Or, by meditation on the heart that has given up all attachment to sense objects. Take some holy person, some great person whom you revere, some saint whom you know to be perfectly non-attached, and think of his heart. That heart has become non-attached, and meditate on that heart. It will calm the mind. If you cannot do that, there is the next way. 38. Svapnanidrjnalamban va. Or by meditating on the knowledge that comes in sleep. Sometimes a man dreams that he has seen angels coming to him and talking to him, that he is in an ecstatic condition, that he has heard music floating through the air. He is in a blissful condition in that dream, and when he awakes it makes a deep impression on him. Think of that dream as real, and meditate upon it. If you cannot do that, meditate on any holy thing that pleases you. 39. Yathabhimatadyanad va. Or by meditation on anything that appeals to one as good. This does not mean any wicked subject, but anything good that you like, any place that you like best, any scenery that you like best, any idea that you like best, anything that will concentrate the mind. 40. Paramanu Paramamahatvantosia Vashakara. The yogi's mind, thus meditating, becomes unobstructed from the atomic to the infinite. The mind, by this practice, easily contemplates the most minute thing, as well as the biggest thing. Thus the mind waves become fainter. 41. Keshinavritarapijatasyv mainargrahitrigrahanagrayasho tatstitadang janatazamapati. The yogi whose virtus have thus become powerless, controlled, obtains in the receiver, receiving, and received, the self, the mind and external objects, concentratedness and sameness, like the crystal, before different colored objects. What results from this constant meditation? We must remember how in a previous aphorism Patanjali went into the various states of meditation, and how the first will be the gross, and the second the fine objects, and from them the advance is to still finer objects of meditation, and how, in all these meditations, which are only of the first degree, not very high ones, we get as a result that we can meditate as easily on the fine as on the grosser objects. Here the yogi sees the three things, the receiver, the received, and the receiving, corresponding to the soul, the object, and the mind. There are three objects of meditation given us. First, the gross things, as bodies, or material objects. Second, fine things, as the mind, the chit, and third, the puresa qualified, not the puresa itself, but the egoism. By practice, the yogi gets established in all these meditations. Whenever he meditates, he can keep out all other thought. He becomes identified with that on which he meditates. When he meditates, he is like a piece of crystal. Before flowers, the crystal becomes almost identified with flowers. If the flower is red, the crystal looks red, or if the flower is blue, the crystal looks blue.